The gospel lesson this morning is a familiar one from the Gospel of Luke 10:25 through 37. Just then, a lawyer stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he said, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" He said to him, "What is written in the law? What do you read here?" He answered, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." And he said to him, "You have given the right answer. Do this, and you will live." But wanting to justify himself, he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers, who stripped him, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, while traveling, came near him, and when he saw him, he was moved with pity. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, having poured oil and wine on them. Then he put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, 'Take care of him, and when I come back, I will repay you whatever more you spend.' Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers?" He said, "The one who showed him mercy." Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." Here ends the reading. Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we are thankful for all that you provide, the things that we are aware of and the things we are not. Please help us to be open to the Holy Spirit to work within us in new ways. May the meditation of our hearts and the words on my lips be acceptable to you, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. This morning I am concluding the 2-part sermon series on race called White Privilege, Let's Talk. And this sermon is entitled, "Who is Our Neighbor?" And as I promised last week, today we will be focusing on how we will respond. And as I explained last week's sermon was more informative, and this week's sermon is more persuasive. So you may recall from last week the story of our friend James Ford. James Ford, who is a Rockford native, was recently named Teacher of the Year in North Carolina, wrote an article linking Rockford's second worst city for Black Americans to live status with our school segregation past. He described our Rock River as a river that divides access to opportunity in our city. He also described how the segregation lawsuit against the Rockford Public School District 205 changed his academic life as a child of color in Rockford. Now I want to take a brief moment to examine this October 2015 statistic that 27 Wall Street awarded Rockford as being the second worst city in America for Black Americans. As you already may know, Rockford used to be a booming industrial city. So as Black Americans were leaving the South to escape the Jim Crow policies, they were able to find employment in Rockford's industries. However, Rockford's industrial companies have either left Rockford or gone under, and there have not been comparable paying jobs that replace that loss. Rockford's Black Americans are still in Rockford, but with few employment opportunities. Our city's October 2015 unemployment rate, according to 27 Wall Street, is 8.3%, and the unemployment rate for our Black residents are 28.9%. The poverty rate for our Black residents are over 4 times of our white poverty rate. In our past, Black residents have been denied the access to quality education, and they are being denied the access to quality employment. I will say that since I did the research for this, the good news is our statistics on that has been better. In Rockford, we have excluded our neighbors. As people of faith and followers of Jesus Christ, we know the parable of the Good Samaritan well. This is a familiar story. Last week, with the story of Jesus and the woman of Samaria, we were told all the ways that Jews and Samaritans were against each other. Even their similar faiths were not means to bring them together. The lawyer that tests Jesus in our passage this morning knows that by just being a priest or a Levite did not make those men good neighbors. The one that was considered the other, the Samaritan, is the one that had compassion. Do we dare say that the Samaritan was good? Yes, we do. Spring Creek, we too are called to be the Samaritan, to be good neighbors. And the United Church of Christ has given us a tool to be better neighbors. They have released an adult education curriculum called White Privilege, Let's Talk. And they are encouraging us all, as United Church of Christ churches, to study this together. Though we know what is happening in Rockford, racial disparities are not unique to Rockford. This kind of education is highly needed in the current time of racial inequality. White Privilege Let's Talk is composed by 5 individuals: Acting Executive of UCC Justice and Witness Ministries, Tracy Blackman, UCC General Minister and President, John Dorhauer, UCC Minister for Youth, Young Adults, and the Outdoors, Davida D. McAllister, Rector of Christ Episcopal Church, John Paddock, and the UCC Indiana-Kentucky Conference Minister, Stephen G. Ray, Jr. Part 1 of this curriculum is their spiritual autobiographies, told through the lens of race. Part 2 is about witnesses as the norm. Part 3, titled The Cash Value of Whiteness, or Whiteness as a Tax-Exempt Status, introduces us to how education, housing practices, income and wealth disparities, and the medical and health industries advantage whites. However, it not only provides awareness, but Part 4 offers concrete ways that we can become white allies. It will teach us the things that we can actually do beyond study and awareness. We will discover behaviors and actions that will not continue the normalcy of racial injustice. Behaviors such as listen without making judgments, use appropriate language, and strive to build relationships with brown and black people. And actions such as volunteer with voter registration in minority areas, support Black Lives Matter and other Black-led movements and organizations, and work for criminal justice reform. But these examples are just a few of the many concrete suggestions that this curriculum provides us. And yes, we will be called out on our privilege. Let me tell you a story about the first time I realized my privilege. I was a sophomore at Aurora University. I thought I was a pretty experienced person. Since middle school, I had been to school with people of color and considered them my friends. I decided to take a course called the Criminal Justice System. It was one of the most difficult classes I ever took in undergrad. The professor, if I recall correctly, was a former police officer. One of the things I learned in his class was that Black Americans are not taught to call the police for help. They were taught to run from the police. I sat there in complete shock, and I realized at that moment that I wasn't really a friend to anyone who didn't look like me, because I had no idea what their life was really about. So yes, we all have privileges we take for granted, and we will be made aware of them. I'd like to share a message from Reverend Tracy Blackman called A Message to White Accomplices. This is her words. When I call out your white privilege, I am not dismissing your presence in this struggle, nor am I questioning your sincerity. When I call out your white privilege, I am not accusing you of the evil, nor am I separating you from its effects. When I call out your white privilege, I am not shrouding you in its shame, nor am I excusing you from its responsibility or accountability. When I call out your white privilege, I am naming the target that is on your back. I'm acknowledging the ill effect of racism on your being. I am joining you to the struggle in the only way that leads to liberation. When I call out your white privilege, I am acknowledging this privilege as being as unearned, unwarranted, and incapacitating as the racist systems and structures that conclude to oppress people of color over this world. When I call out your white privilege, I sound the alarm of the danger that lurks in not being fully aware of the toxic waters in which we swim. Waters that makes you feel as though you are breathing, so that you never come up for air. When I call out your white privilege, it is not because I believe you can remove it alone, not because I believe you can choose it, to use it, or refuse it. If these things were true, it would be privilege indeed, but it is not. It is a tool of the enemy designed to create an illusion of God divided against God's self, crafted so that some might assume the idolatrous position of believing somehow that anyone created in the image of God could ever be inherently flawed. When I call it out, white privilege, it is not because I hate you. It is not to separate you. It is to remind you and myself that we are one. I tried to say that with as much intensity as I could, because if you've ever heard Tracy Blackman speak, that's what she does the whole time. I don't know how she does it. The first time I sat there and watched her speak, I was like, oh, wow. We, Spring Creek, cannot allow ourselves to be the lawyer that tries to justify ourselves. We cannot be the church that passes on the other side of the road. We cannot be the Good Samaritan only on Sundays or to only some of our neighbors. We must be moved by the injustice of our city and our country. We must tend to the wounds, pour oil and wine on them. We must offer our resources to give support and care to those who have been left along the side of the road, half dead. As Rockfordians and as people of Christ, we cannot let our Rock River continue to be a symbol of separation of opportunity. I challenge each of you to begin exploring racism and white privilege. One avenue that you can do is go to ucc.org to download the curriculum and join the online conversation. I challenge our Christian education ministry to consider the curriculum in their upcoming education plans. And I think it is a topic worth exploring at other times that work for people besides 9:30 a.m. on Sunday mornings, because this topic is important enough for people to not have to choose between choir and education. I also think this is important enough to invite other churches and people in the community to dialogue and to learn together. I encourage each of you to talk with one another about your concerns with racism, the curriculum, or other personal experiences. I ask you to take this Sunday morning worship experience beyond 11:30 today. Will you commit to exploring the UCC curriculum? Will you commit to being a good neighbor? Will you commit to living out the pattern of the Good Samaritan as the Samaritan? Or will you pass on the other side of the road? We as Spring Creekers are an open and affirming congregation. We claim that God is still speaking. Our banner on our church says, "Be you, be bold, be the church." We are a community of faith and action. Here is our opportunity to be the church. Now go and do likewise. Amen.